a key progressive voice in the reddest of red states. Senator Bernie Sanders is spending this congressional recess back on what he calls his Fighting Oligarchy tour, trying to help Democrats find their footing among working class Americans and reclaim power next November. I hit the road with the senator in West Virginia as he took his message to the heart of Trump country. It's good to be with you here. We're in Wheeling, West Virginia, and it's so fascinating that this is part of what you call your Fighting the Oligarchy tour, because this is a state where Donald Trump got 70%.
Really?
70%.
Though not tonight.
Well, yeah, and this was an auditorium that was packed. It was at capacity. Still, what makes you think that your message tonight is going to resonate in such a red state?
Well, among other things, when I ran for president, I think here in West Virginia, we won every single county. Look, this is a working class state. It's one of the poorest states in the country. People are hurting, and they want candidates to come before them to stand up for the working class and take on the oligarchs who have so much economic and political power. So I think the message will resonate here. I think it'll resonate in many red states throughout the country, because at the end of the day, 60% of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. They don't want to see tax breaks for billionaires. They don't want to see the rich get richer. They want health care as a human right. They want to raise the minimum wage to a living wage. They want to be able to live in housing that they can afford.
One of the things that you talked about here, as you've been talking about since even before it passed, is what the president calls his big, beautiful bill. Cuts to Medicaid, other programs. 25% of West Virginians receive Medicaid, 15% rely on food stamps. And yet, as I mentioned, West Virginians overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump. How do you square that circle?
Well, that's a longer story that has to do with the failure of the Democratic Party in general to speak to the needs of the working class. This used to be, decades ago, one of the strongest Democratic states in the country. Now it's a strong Republican state, because I think in many ways, the Democratic Party has turned its back on what was its base. But I think our job, and what the reason I'm here and the reason we go to red states all over the country, is to make it clear that there are some of us who are prepared to stand up for the working class. And if we stand together, if we're united, if we don't let Trump divide us up, there is no stopping what we can do as a nation in terms of improving life for ordinary people.
You said the Democratic Party has turned its back on the working class. You'd said something pretty tough when you were speaking to this crowd about Kamala Harris.
One of the reasons, in my view, that Kamala Harris lost this election is she had too many billionaires telling her not to speak up for the working class of this country.
Ouch.
Well, no, I don't think that's, I like Kamala, she's a friend of mine, but her core consultants, were heavily influenced by very wealthy people. How do you run for president and not develop a strong agenda which speaks to the economic crises facing working families? You have more income and wealth inequality today than we've ever had. You have 60% of our people living paycheck to paycheck. You got a healthcare system which is broken and dysfunctional. And despite spending so much, we're the only major country not to guarantee health care to all people. How do you not talk about physicians?
She talked about affordability.
Well, but in a vague, I don't want to rehash that campaign. But I think the clue to Democratic victories is to understand that you got to stand unequivocally with the working class of this country. You need an agenda that speaks to the needs of working people. Is it a radical idea that we join every other major country on earth and guarantee health care to all people? Is that a radical idea? You tell me how many people are talking about that. Is it a radical idea to say that we've got to raise the minimum wage to $17 an hour? Is it a radical idea to say that in the midst of a competitive global economy, we need to make sure we have the best educated workforce, that all of our kids, regardless of income, should be able to get a higher education? These ideas exist all over the world. They don't exist in America. And they don't exist because of the power of the oligarchs economically and politically. All right, let's be clear, in my view. The current political system in the United States of America is broken and corrupt. Does anybody think that it makes any sense at all that Elon Musk can spend $270 million to elect Trump as president and then become the most important person in government? Billionaires should not be able to buy elections. And by the way, that's not just a progressive perspective. Conservatives understand that too.
What makes you so sure that the solution that you're offering, which is a more assertive federal government, is something that is going to fly in places where people have been voting in recent years Republican and have an inherent distrust of government?
Well, they should, and they should have a distrust for a number of reasons. The government is too bureaucratic and not responsive. But, and let me tell you what I'm sure you already know, is that if you look at the polling, and I asked the people here today, you heard me ask.
Anybody here think that the American healthcare system is vaguely effective?
Nobody in America thinks it's working. We spend twice as much as other countries, 85 million uninsured or underinsured. 60,000 people die a year because they can't get to a doctor on time. Do you think that in America, with all of our genius, all of our capabilities, we spending so much money cannot provide a high-quality system that guarantees health care to all people? And do you think people here don't know that? They know it. They know we can do it. Throughout Europe and other countries, you don't have to leave college $50,000, $100,000 in debt or $500,000 in debt if you're going to medical school. That makes zero sense at all. Look, let's be clear, and the message of tonight and what I will continue to give. You have a government today that is run by the wealthiest people in this country. They are extremely greedy people. They want it all, and we've got to stand up to them. Unfortunately, for many decades, that has not been the Democratic Party, and that has got to change.
I'm sure you've heard about some Democrats who are talking about embracing the so-called abundance movement.
Yeah.
The idea that liberal politicians have created too much regulatory red tape, and it stops government from getting anything done. I spoke recently to Democratic Congressman Richie Torres, who said that Democrats shouldn't be the party of more government, but the party of better, cheaper, and faster government. What do you make of that idea?
Well, I think that it is clear. Look, I deal with bureaucracy every day at the federal level, the state level, at the local level. It's absolutely true. To build a house, to do this, do that, you have to go through all kinds of things. To apply for, Medicaid, you got to fill out 87 forms. Dealing with your insurance companies, you got to fill out 1 million forms. We live in a world which is much, much too complicated. So if the goal is to make it sure that within environmental safeguards, we can move forward much faster, the answer is yes. But that is not the fundamental problem facing America. The fundamental problem facing America is that you got a handful of oligarchs who have enormous wealth, enormous economic power, enormous political power, and they want even more. That is the fundamental issue. Should we make government more efficient? Absolutely.
Just a couple of political questions. President Trump suggested this week that the Vice President, J.D. Vance, is probably the favorite to take over the so-called MAGA movement. He's from this kind of area. I mean, he's from Appalachia. He probably has appeal in red states and working class areas. Do you think him being an heir to the MAGA movement is something that should be concerning to Democrats trying to defeat MAGA?
Not my thing at all. I really don't know. I don't particularly care. I think he has nothing really, neither Trump nor he nor the Republicans of today have anything of significance to say to working class people. What they're trying to do is to divide us up. Oh, you're a Muslim, you're undocumented, you're black, you're gay. Let's divide everybody up so the rich can become richer. Our job is to bring people together. Doesn't matter to me, who heads the Republican Party.
Redistricting.
Yes.
What's going on in Texas? Republicans are pushing to redraw the state's map to try to bolster the House GOP majority, eliminating Democratic seats. I know you have been a long time opponent of gerrymandering with redistricting, but you also say the Democratic governors should, quote, fight fire with fire and
there are a couple
redraw.
of things here.
Yeah.
What is quite incredible. I mean, see, we are taking Trumpism kind of as normal. Trump is the one who came up with the idea. He says, let's see, Texas, I think we can get 5 more seats. Do it. Oh, yes, sir. You're the great leader. We will do it. And they're often trying to do it. So everybody knows what's going on. It is undemocratic. It is outrageous.
And yet you think Democratic governors should try to push back
I
and
think it's
do
sad.
the same thing?
I think they have no choice. I mean, what Trump is trying to do, he understands that there is a good chance that the Republicans will lose control over the House. I would hope the Senate as well. That'll be a tougher fight. So he's trying to make, in his authoritarian way, say, hey, I don't want to lose elections. Let's rig the system. Give me 5 more votes in Texas to me, maybe some other states. So what should Democrats do? Sit back and say, oh, gee, Trump is doing is terrible. We can't do anything. Let them win the election when they shouldn't. So Democrats have got to fight back. I think it's pathetic, but I think that's what they've got to do.
Even though you have said that gerrymandering undermines
It does.
political
Of course it
process?
does.
Yeah.
It's, what we have now is a terrible situation, and Republicans are making it worse. Well, what do? If Republicans are doing it, you have to respond. It's pathetic, but I think you have to respond.